Hi guys, and thanks for joining me today. If you're new here, I'm Marilyn, and if you're returning, thanks so much for coming back. Now, today's an exciting day for me because I'm releasing 4 videos. In each of the 4 videos, I'm going to use Embrilliance software to design this type of cute and trendy knockout design. So why 4 different videos? In part 1, I'm going to show you how you can make this using Stitch Artist Level 1. In part 2, I'm going to show you how you can use Stitch Artist Level 2 as well as Silhouette Studio Business Edition to make this. In Level 3, and I think Level 3 is the most efficient way to make it, but not everybody has Stitch Artist Level 3. That's what part 3 is about. And then in part 4, I go back to Stitch Artist Level 1, but if you also have Enthusiast, there's a feature in there that makes this with Stitch Artist Level 1 much easier. So in the video that you're watching right now, I'm going to use Stitch Artist Level 3 to make this design. So here I am in Embrilliance, and this is what my screen looks like when I open it. Now I do have Stitch Artist Levels 1 through 3, plus Essentials, plus Enthusiast. So as I go through this, my screen might look a little bit different than yours, but I'll tell you what level I'm using as I do it. So what I want to make is a cute, trendy knockout design. I'm going to have a capital H, and then I'm going to have the word hope stitched out on the side of it. So to start with, let's go ahead and start by making that capital H. I'm going to click right here on this Create Designs icon so that I can bring in True Type Art. What that means is I can type in fonts that I have on my computer system. So we'll click here, and then we'll go right here. Now so far, these are all just Level 1 features. So I'll click here, and then I'm going to use University. That's the same font that I've used in the other videos in this series, and I want to stay consistent. So I'm going to type a capital H, and I'll say OK. Now I want to get this to 6 inches tall. So with it still selected, I can click right here on the Create icon, and that lets me go change the size right here. So let's change the height of 1 inch to 6 inches. Now since the padlock is locked, my proportions are locked, and when I hit enter, the height and the width are both going to change. Now that I have the H done and I have it set to the size I want, let's go ahead and add the word hope right here. And to do this, I'm simply going to use a BX font today. If you want to bring in a true type font and you want to type your word out and you want to hand digitize it, you can, but we're going to keep this simple and I'm going to use a BX font. So I'll click right here on this A. I'll go down here and select my font. Again, I'm going to use the same font I've used in the other videos in this series, this Bajas. And then in all caps, I'm going to type the word hope. Now I can tell that's not the right size, but let me get it in place before I decide on a final size. I want hope to go from H down here to E up here. So with it still selected, I'm going to click on this left arrow and that's going to rotate it 90 degrees. Now I can just drag it over here and let's select it again. I can just drag on a corner to get it to the size I want. And I think that looks pretty good. Now I could have it all the way up here. I could have it probably about to there before the satin border stitch that'll eventually be here and here would hit each other. You don't want that. But let's go about right there. So the next step is to make that knockout effect, because you don't want the H stitching under hope. With this trendy new design, this H goes around the word hope. To do that, with hope selected, we're going to go up to Create Designs. I'm going to have to select hope again. And then I'm going to go right up here. Now using any of these icons over here under Path, these are Stitch Artist Level 3 features. And I'm going to make an outline of the word hope. So let's click on that, and it showed up right here. Now it's hard to tell it's there because you still see the letters. So let's go ahead and select the letters, and then let's just lock that. That's going to hide it as well. So we'll click on the padlock, and then we can click over here on the screen, and those letters go away, and all we have left is that outline. Now we need to have an offset around that outline. In Embrilliance, you're going to inflate that outline. So let's select the outline, and then let's go right here. This is how you can inflate it. So I'll click on Inflate, and then I can drag this up to about the size I want it. Now this might just take practice, but I think I want 4.5. If you don't inflate it large enough, then the stitches of the word hope and the stitches of the word H, they're going to run into each other. If you make it too large, you're going to have a really large gap in there, and you might not want that. So we're going to go with 4.5. I'm going to go ahead and soften those corners, and then I'm going to click on Remove Holes. When I did that, the center of this O went away. Now I can say OK. Now if I scroll down here, you can see that those are still individual, and I want this to be welded together. In Embrilliance, that's called union. So we still have them selected. I'll go right up to this icon. It's called Logical Union, and I'll click on it. And it really looks like nothing happened. But if I scroll down, you can see it's right here. So let me go ahead and delete these other parts. And now it's time to actually subtract this outline, the inflated outline, from the H. That's the knockout effect. So let's select the H. Let's add the union of hope to it. Then we're going to go right here to this icon, and this is the subtract icon. So we'll click on that. And this is exactly what I wanted to have left. All right, let's go ahead and get rid of this. Let's go ahead and unlock hope. You do that right here. And for now, I'm going to put hope at the top. Eventually, at the end of this design, I'll probably pull hope back down. But for now, let's select it. Let's go over to Edit, Sequence Objects, and I want to move it first. Now the reason I did that is I want to have my next 3 stitches together. If I would have left them the way they were, I would have had an H, then a hope, then another H, then another H. So this just works better with the way my brain works. So now it's time to turn this H into an applique. And I like to go ahead and manually make my applique. I do that instead of using this applique feature right here. So let's select the H. And the first layer, well, wait a minute, I see something I am not going to like. Let me show you what I see. Instead of turning this into a run stitch for the position stitch, let's first look and see what it's going to look like once we get to the satin border stitch. So let's click this on, and then let's select the satin border stitch, and let's take it up to 4 millimeters. That's what I want in the end. So by looking at this first before doing all 3 layers, I can see I don't really want this here. So let's go here and let me drag around. I'm hoping to get about 4 of those points. I got 5. Let's go ahead and go with that, and I'll hit delete. And then to get it straight, I think I'll delete this one as well. I could move it over, and that doesn't look bad. Let me click off of it. It doesn't look bad for it to go up like that a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and click on this point and get rid of it. Now, if you're not all that familiar with points, I have a recent video where I showed how to draw with points, when you use certain points, how to change those points. It's just a lot of information about drawing with points or editing points. I'll link in the video description below. Okay, so the other thing that I see that I don't love is, you see how this is really nice and squared off? And then this one, this is not quite squared off. Actually, it might be. Let's go look at it. That doesn't look bad. Let me see. It is not squared off because I need to pull this handle out just a little bit. And there we go. That squared it off, just moving that handle a little bit. So now I think I'm ready to go forward. So I want to change this to a simple run stitch. I want this to be my placement or my position stitch. So I'll go right here and change it to a run stitch. One time around is perfect for me, but I do want the length of this position stitch or placement stitch to be 3 millimeters. You don't need really tight stitches. Also, notice there's a lot of points. If I wanted to, I could go in and delete some of those, but for now, I just want to keep moving forward. All right, so we have our first run stitch, which is our placement or position stitch. Let's go ahead and copy that. So I'm going to hit Command C on my keyboard, then Command V. That's copy and paste. You can also use these icons, or you can go up to Edit, and you have copy and paste here. All right, so this second run stitch, let me click off of it and then back on it. This second run stitch is my tack down stitch or my material stitch, and I do want these stitches to be closer. So I'm going to take this down to 2.5. Also, some people will change this to a double or even a bean stitch. And if you're using things like glitter HTV or sequins, that's a good idea to do. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at a single stitch because I'm just going to use fabric. Now let's hit Command C for copy, Command V for paste, and we're going to change this last stitch. Let me click off of it and back on it. Now we're going to change this to the satin border stitch. So we'll click right here. Now it remembered that I wanted this at 4 millimeters, and I also want to go right here, and I want to make sure that I tie in and tie out. That's going to help keep those stitches stable. The last thing I do before I save this is I'm going to move this to the bottom. So let's select it and let's hit Edit, Sequence Objects, and Move Last. Let's use the stitch simulator and see how this stitches out. We'll click right here, and then I'm just going to drag this. And I know one more thing I need to change. Let me change that first. It's going to make following this easier. I want this middle stitch to be a different color because I want my machine to stop for a color change. So let's click on the color and change it any other color. It really doesn't matter. I just like to have a color stop in there so that you can either place your material down or you can take your hoop off and cut the excess applique material away. So now I'm ready to see what this would stitch out like. So we have our placement or position stitch. We have our tack down or our material stitch. And then the last thing on this H is we're going to have this satin border stitch. And I'm going to go through this rather quickly. After the H is done, then we stitch out the word hope. And remember, this is just a BX font, but it's super cute. At this time, I'm ready to go ahead and save this. But one thing I like to do is make sure it's in the center of the hoop, because when I put my hoop on my machine, I want to know that the center of my design is in the center of my hoop. So let's go to the Select tool. Let's go ahead and select the entire design, and then we'll hit Utility and Center in Hoop. Now let's save this. I'm going to go to File, Save As. I save it as a stitch and a working file, and I'm going to name this EMB Hope and then SA3 for Stitch Artist Level 3. The only reason I'm doing that is because I'm doing a series of videos and I want to be able to tell which design was made with which level of Stitch Artist. Now I'll say save. All right, now let's click off of that. So thanks again for joining me. I hope this video has been helpful. If you have Stitch Artist Level 3, making these knockout designs is really efficient. If you don't have Stitch Artist Level 3, check out one of the other videos in this series. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope to see you in my next video. So after I finished the design and the tutorial, I decided there was a part of the design that I didn't love, and that's the pointy area above the E. So I went back to basics and deleted some of the points to straighten it out. After adding back my other layers, here's what it looked like. I think I like it just a little bit better this way.